pave the roads. You who run the freight trains wherever they be bound.
It is my grand pleasure to welcome to the stage Terry Rovics.
This is the first gig in 34 years that I've done with a cello. Took a 34-year break. A job or not, you who pick the tomatoes, you who grow the pot, you who stay home to raise the children, you that record the sound, you who flip the burgers, all you workers, gather round, all you workers, all of you who pull the shots. You who wash the dishes, park the cars in parking lots. You who dig the ditches to put the caskets in the ground. You who clean the bathrooms, all you workers, gather round. Gather round, all you workers, all of you who write the code, you who teach the children, you who pave the roads, you who run the freight trains wherever they be bound, you who drive the buses, all you workers, gather round, all you workers, struggling to pay the rent. You who work a second job and wonder where all the time went. You there in the sleeping bag, shivering on the ground, in the houses, on the sidewalks, all you workers, gather round. Gather round, all you workers, all you actors on the screen. You who point the cameras and write for the magazines. You who launch the missiles, you who fire from the ground. You who fly the helicopters, all you workers, gather round, all you workers, gather round, and you will know that gathered all together, we can vanquish any foe. As sure as we're made of water, so history has found the workers have the power if all we workers gather round. I was hanging out with a family in the Netherlands, and little boy. They have a little boy who's 5 years old, and he's always worn dresses. And I wrote this song for him. Ever since the days when you learned to dress yourself, you would reach for certain clothing from your little shelf. said I want to dress like mommy. That's exactly what you did. You always did things differently from most other kids. You'd be playing with a doll or some other toy when someone would ask, is that a girl or a boy? Someone would call her given name with you there in your dress, leaving some to wonder with others left to guess. Are you an innie or an outie, a princess or a king? Do you like to play with tractors or wear angel wings? What's inside the box? Is it a bullet or a pearl? As someone else must ask, is that a boy or a girl? You'd pretend that you weren't bothered, but it was clear you were. And one day someone asked what pronoun you prefer. Learning there were options, and the choice was yours to make. For you there was no question now which path you would take. You grabbed a piece of paper, signed it with a swirl, as you announced, my name is Guinevere, and I am a girl. Ever since the days when you learned to dress yourself, you would reach for certain clothing from your little shelf. The songs where I don't need to be in tune work better. So, 1848 was a damn good year. Okay, the cello's in tune, I can't blame the cello. The famine had affected many people, from Ireland to the shores of the Baltic Sea. The foreign custom soon went and took monthly earnings, which meant the shutting down of much of industry. But no one knows for sure where the rebellion began, or why it quickly spread from state to state. When the mountains and the plains, from Galway to Ukraine, came the rising of 1848. 1848. A pitchfork may be no match for a rifle, but there's nothing that would give the king a fright, as when he looks out at the window and sees his castle burning in the night. But that's just what happened in 50 different countries where the landlords often encountered such a fate. Where from Budapest to Sicily, life would never be the same after the rising of 1848. 1848. Marx and Engels wrote a book which spread as quickly as the flames, from which the feudal barons had to flee. From the workers in the cities, from the peasants in the towns, and even from the petty bourgeoisie. United for a time by a common sense of purpose to finally throw off the crushing weight of the dynamic role of his hereditary lords of the Europe of 1848. 1848. Tens of thousands died before it all was over, and some say it all ended in defeat. But the landscape was transformed when serfdom was abolished, which is why we don't see history repeat. And the monarchs all remembered when the peasants with their pitchforks came to burn down their estate. And most of them decided the welfare state was better than the rising of 1848. 1848. 1848. 1848. This will be like the most out-of-tune gig I've ever done and the most professionally filmed gig at the same time. That's always how it goes. When you think it's your big break, that's when you try something new and ruin everything. making every effort to deny that history is happening, that it isn't in the past, that the Indian wars continue, that Ishi was not the last. After building all the pipelines, after spraying all the gas, after desecrating graveyards, being told they shall not pass, after shooting all the horses, after driving in with tanks, after sending in the dogs with soldiers in their ranks, they're standing up at Standing Rock. After all the famine, after killing all the buffalo, after taking all the salmon, after taking all the water, to slurry all the coal, after mining the uranium from 1,000,000 giant holes, after stealing and lynching, shooting people as they dance, after trying hard to make sure there'd be no second chance, after declaring Indian country to be one big sacrifice zone, at no point ever trying to acknowledge or atone, they're standing up at Standing Rock. After all the cities ransacked, after all the cities burned, after all the centuries when almost no one even learned that these towns ever existed, up and down the coast, up and down the Mississippi, leaving colonists to boast this land is our land now. A new homeland for the white, after all the missionaries taking children in the night, after all the slaughter, after centuries of theft. Watch the people riding to defend what's left. They're standing up at Standing Rock. They're standing up at Standing Rock. At Standing Rock. So I live in Portland, which is, you might be surprised to find out, is the fastest gentrifying city in the United States. We got you beat, apparently. And I guess it depends on how you measure it, but in terms of the average income of the average Portlander and the price of rent, which even though it's not as completely outrageous as it is here, it's in relation to the low income of the average Portlander, it's actually the worst in the country. And you can feel it, you feel it in the streets, just like here, So I've written about 20 songs about my desire to strangle my landlord, and this one is the 21st, and I think that just seems to be the right number. 10,000 yuppies just moved here. 10,000 others came last year. The rent has doubled since I moved in. Each month I take it on the chin. Each month I wonder how many more can I stay in Portland before I move into my car or end up somewhere behind bars. 10,000 yuppies say don't complain now that the city is in the fast lane. It's just a market, and it knows best. That's how the bakers built the West. So just get rich, and you can stay. Otherwise, just go away. There's no room here for us. Holding on under the bus. I'm just a renter. This ain't my town. Might as well just burn it down for all I care. 10,000 yuppies think it's great to invest in Portland real estate. Keep Portland weird, they like to say, but that was over yesterday. that can transform tents and mansions into the new norm. They like TED Talks, they like greed, they like wine bars, they like weed, they like bike lanes, they want more. They're the face of the new class war. I'm just a renter, this ain't my town. Might as well just burn it down for all I care. For all I care. For all I care. So, seems to me that in this last election, we had two choices. Among the ones that were likely to win. You got to choose between the Nazi and Wall Street. And the Nazi won. And so now, of course, everybody can yell at each other for being some horrible person for voting for Wall Street or for voting for the Nazi. This is a false set of choices, by the way. But now, so then some folks I was listening on Counterpunch Radio, I think one of the few voices of sanity amidst the corporate and so-called alternative and so-called public and so-called community media out there. Oftentimes they're just saying the same thing they got on the BBC headlines, and it seems to me, but Counterpunch has some really good analysis, and I write for them too, so I might be biased, but I think it's now, I mean, it was, we were already heading off the cliff in so many different ways, and now, but it was just a question of which cliff we were going to get to first, I think. And I believe under the Democratic Party, we seemed to be heading towards a war with the second biggest nuclear power in the world, which is a horrible idea. And now we're heading towards the complete destruction of the environment. So, which at least will take a little longer. And of course, we'll be in concentration camps. But anyway. The song I wrote, 14 years ago. Standing here on high, turned into a lake, born on this planet that I didn't make. The ice caps are melting, you can measure the rise of the poisoned oceans. Hear all the lies of the political pundits, corporate crooks, their accountants and scientists cooking the books with hardly an inkling of what it's about. Wedded to profit in flooded and drought. I'm talking to you from here at the end of the world. Standing here on the bayou amidst mountains of soil, washed off from the farmland and covered in oil. 1 ton every acre, lost every year, and along with the pesticides it ends up right here. Millions of miles of chemical wheat, challenging all to try to compete and lay waste to your country like we've done to ours. Let them eat sugar, coffee, cocoa, and flowers. I'm talking to you from here at the end of the world. And here in the city, shrouded in smoke, 10 million people this morning woke to a future of cancer, industrial disease. So let's build some more suburbs and buy us EVs. Let's cut down the mountains and burn all the coal and put all the money in a humongous bowl. They'll call it progress and they'll blame it on you to end life as we know it, to enrich the few. I'm talking to you from here at the end of the world. As I speak to you now from an occupied place, you might call it your home or a terrorist base. They'll send your sons and your daughters to make sure that it's theirs while they sit in their mansions, plush littered chairs. And everyone's waiting for us to decide. From dust we were born and in dust we reside. Well, you realize the commons is to separate and share here in this war zone called land, water, and air. I'm talking to you from here at the end of the world. It's I've written over the past couple of years. I'm always kind of going back and forth between the land of gentrification, which is like all the cities I play in the U.S. They're all going through the same process: San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, New York, Austin. It's just crazy. And I lived in Boston when they got rid of rent control in 1991 under Governor Weld, who just ran as the Libertarian Party's vice presidential candidate. And it was a remarkable, dramatic transformation of the city overnight, from a city of a multi-generational city of lots of different ethnicities and just people of different national origins living loosely in different kinds of neighborhoods that have been there like that for generations. And then suddenly that all was gone, and it became a playground of the rich, and all the people, all the pensioners and all the people that had lived there in the city just started moving, I don't know where, but further and further out away to other places. And I think it's a classic example of what passes as progressivism in the United States today, that you have people like the mayors of San Francisco and Portland and Seattle and New York and other cities full of pretentious yuppies saying that they will remain sanctuary cities, that they will continue to not cooperate with the federal immigration authorities, and not cooperating with the federal immigration authorities is fantastic, and that is exactly the right thing that they should be doing. But how many undocumented workers can possibly afford to live in San Francisco? I mean, this is a joke. And California, at least, is one of the 2 states in the United States where rent control is legal. But in the other 48 states where it's been banned on a statewide basis over the past few decades, well, most people didn't even notice. In Oregon, for example, it's banned on a statewide basis. So we got the city council, this supposedly progressive bunch of people, saying we're not going to cooperate with federal authorities on immigration law, but so we're going to openly break federal law in terms of pot legalization, in terms of cooperating on immigration. But when it comes to rent control, something that dramatically affects everybody who's not rich, especially undocumented workers and anybody on the bottom of the pile financially, we can't not cooperate with state authorities and impose rent control, because well, then what would happen? They might lose the next election because they were put in power by the developers in the first place. But this song is not necessarily related to that. I just needed to talk to give my thumb a rest. Actually, I usually talk a lot, but when playing the show, I've discovered I really need to talk a lot, because it's a work in progress. Just like you, I eat the fruits of this land. I hold the apple in my hand. I feel the rain fall on my face, like the rest of the human race. Hold my baby tightly when he cries. I see him when I look into his eyes. I am. When I walk 4 miles in the summer heat, like you, I get blisters on my feet. When I cut myself with blood, I will perspire. When I try to climb over the wire, I am. I'll do one more song, take a break, and then I'll be back with the guitar, and I'll do a longer set, and it'll be more in tune. And this is a song I wrote about the election. Faced with the decision, which one to elect? Did you do your best job that one could expect? Faced with the establishment, the deadly status quo, or something unpredictable, an outcome you don't know? Did you push the button, then hope for the best? See what might happen if you put it to the test. Now that we've got a fence that may soon become a wall, built by the biggest landlord of them all. Were you hoping on that day? Are you hoping still that what happened in November will change things for the better? Not just more of the same, change the rules of the corrupt politicians' game, pull out of those agreements that the Clintons made. Are you hoping for an end to the era of free trade? Now that we've got a fence that may soon become a wall, built by the biggest landlord of them all. Were you voting for the factories to come to life again? Were you voting for returning back to the time when there was a place for you in what they once called society? Were you voting to resurrect a country, to fix this broken nation, to stop fighting all these wars? Is that the president you hoped you were voting for? Now that we've got a fence that may soon become a wall, built by the biggest landlord of them all. Here's a song about a miner from, oh, that's just the room. Yeah, okay. I grew up on this mountain, came back here to dwell, maybe have a family, plant some corn and dig a well. I was all done with the army, back from Vietnam, where I learned how to hold a rifle and how to set a bomb. I grew up on this mountain, it's in my very soul. So when the company moved next door, started digging for the coal, tearing up the mountain with drillers and drag lines, I knew then what needed to happen to those mines. 10, 9, 8, sometimes that's just how it goes. 3, 2, 1, get out before it blows. The guard, he One of here's the 20th song I wrote about strangling my landlord, is this one. And it's a new genre, landlord strangling. When Arlo Guthrie was a kid, he thought that you know how in Irish music there's different kinds of songs and different kinds of tunes, you know, jigs, reels, and different, you know, they have different names. And so he thought massacre was just like a type of a song, you know. He didn't realize it was pronounced massacre, and it was just because his dad wrote so many songs about massacre. Among the choices, it's probably better than listening to voices raging in my head saying point and shoot. Then after you're dead, your face meets my boot. I don't know your name, it's better that way, cause I can't play this game, who knows what I'll say. I feel like I'm burning, I've had it, but here it's time that you were learning the meaning of fear. I live in these apartments like a private property among your residents. Most of us agree that you're a piece of shit. How does that make you feel? We don't like you one bit, and that's for real. We think you're a thief, but you don't care. Seems your one belief was whatever the market will bear, whatever you can get away with, what you can make us pay. If we ever get justice, you should fear that day. Landlord! Landlord! But it's not just you, it's all your kin. The things you do cause the state we're in. You bribe the politicians so they let you off lead. Now the legal situation's just the one you need. For you to make millions, for profits to be high, but even billions won't be with you when you die. I hope you find the death you seek and meet the devil that you serve. If you live another week, that's more life than you deserve. Landlord! Landlord! In the class war you're waging, there's no question who is winning. But if there's any justice, this is only the beginning. The next act in the play will be written by the tenants, and until your dying day, you'll be paying penance. Your assets will be seized, that's a fucking given. You profiteers of business, start spending time in prison. You can get a job, figure out what you do best. You can keep the house you live in, but we're taking all the rest. Landlord! 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 Yo, landlord! But there's probably nothing more exciting to me to hear about than the union movement in China. I think it's such a fantastic and important development for China and for the entire world. And it's, you know, sometimes you have to look outside, actually oftentimes, actually most of the time, you have to look outside of your own national borders for some optimism. And there's something to be optimistic about. Last December, this happened. It's a long way from Nairobi, travel across the country to an arid northern little border town. If you leave early in the day, you'll still be on your way long after the sun is going down. It began as just a ride to the other side, but then was interrupted by the sound of the shattering of glass as the driver tried to pass the men with guns there on the dusty desert ground. There were 2 already dead, another shot as she fled. No question here whose lives were now at stake. When all is is said and done, it is instances like this one when every move is one that just might make or break. All passengers get out, men with guns begin to shout, "You Christians now get up against the wall." But then everyone stayed still, saying, "Now do as you will, you may leave, or you may kill us all." It wasn't far away, just over a year ago today, when people were massacred exactly in this manner. The pattern, it was clear. All the Muslims here would be safe if they just stood beside this banner. Headscarves passed from hand to hand among this human band. Live together or together fall. And then nobody moved, showing each of them approved of saying, "You may leave, or you may kill us all." It wasn't set in stone. There's no way they could have known that this time, this act of solidarity would see the gunmen leave goals left unachieved on the border there in Mandera County. But sometimes you take a chance that at a second glance you find you've changed the world with the passing of a shawl. There are those who will remember, those who on one day in December said, "You may leave, or you may kill us all." You may leave, or you may kill us all. You may leave. And then that was on December 21st. And then just 2 weeks before that, the president-elect announced that Muslims would not be welcome. And I thought maybe he's going for a triple income stream here, which I think is the case. Like, he can be president of the United States, CEO of Trump Enterprises, and chief recruiting officer of Islamic State all at the same time. It's a good gig. It follows a long American tradition of profiting from both sides of a war, or even 3 or 4 sides of a war, if possible. And Henry Ford was a Nazi too. And he did that too. There's a pattern. Irving Bush as well. He was born a rich man, then he got richer still by bribing politicians on Capitol Hill, by declaring bankruptcy, by working with the mob, by causing lots of Americans to lose their union jobs, by exporting industries to sweat jobs overseas, by acting like an idiot on national TV. But now add to his accomplishments one more impressive trait. He's God's gift to the caliphate. God's gift to the caliphate. That's the chorus. Sing along. In between his beauty pageants and gambling casinos and pretending to be a self-made man in films and TV shows, Donald Trump decided he should run for president. For jihadi recruiters, his campaign is heaven sent. It's a war between religions, a civilizational fight. That's what Daesh says, and Donald Trump says that's right. All you Muslims, stay out of here, just go join Islamic State. He's God's gift to the caliphate. God's gift to the caliphate. Lovely. He's not much for statistics. He doesn't have the time between harassing women and committing corporate crime. But he's a savvy gambler. He knows how to play the game. He's got a list of groups ready-made for him to blame. He doesn't just hate Muslims, he hates Mexicans as well. And he's prepared to win the contract for the wall he wants to sell. But the terrorists around the world think he's really He's God's gift to the caliphate. God's gift to the caliphate. The future of the world may be technically unknown, but if the past is any indication, then Trump has set the tone. Along with 27 governors, Congress people by the score, who, if we turn the clock back to 1944, would be turning back the refugees just like we did back then. Hey, that worked out so well, why not just do it all again? Because what the world clearly needs is more bio bombs and hate, and God's gift to the caliphate. God's gift to the caliphate. So I've had, I don't know how many people have shared on Facebook with me this announcement that I'm supposed to be impressed by. The head of the Anti-Defamation League, which is a group that largely makes a pretense of claiming that they're opposed to discrimination against different people in the guise of being one of the most prominent Zionist organizations in the United States. And this guy who was a former advisor to Barack Obama, who is now head of the ADL, has said that if there's going to be a registry of Muslims, then he will register as a Muslim. He said, this proud Jew will register as a Muslim. First of all, there's already a registry of Muslims. The FBI is already monitoring every Muslim in this country. Throughout the entire Obama administration, throughout most of the Bush administration, probably going back before then, they've been monitoring all the Muslims in this country already. There's already FBI agents in every mosque in this country. What do you think the FBI does? There's 2 million of them working for the FBI. Of course they're in every mosque in the country. It's idiocy. And now we're supposed to be impressed that this guy says he's in favor of Muslims. Now, if he was in favor of Muslims having rights, then he should start with Palestine. This is a song about a Jewish refugee, a boatload of Jewish refugees who were turned away from this country back in 1939. One of the refugees on that boat, it turns out, as we discovered about a year ago, somebody did the research, I can't remember who, but somebody discovered that one of those 937 European Jewish refugees on the boat was Anne Frank's father, Otto. It's 1939 and the boats are coming, but we can't have them here. That much at least is clear. Our economy is poor. We can't just open up the door. We've got problems of our own. They should just leave us alone. They're a tribalistic race. They keep a separate space. They don't really integrate. They'll be a burden on the state. Watch before it is too late. It's 1939 and the boats are coming. But if we let them land and acquiesce to their demands, we'll soon be overrun. Our Christian country will be done. They should just take the tram closer by to Amsterdam. Keep their problems in the region. This invading legion, enemies within our ranks, with names like Rosenberg and Frank. Watch that water that you drank. It's 1939 and the boats are coming. But they must stay away. In the newspapers they say they don't believe in Christ the Lord, and they're jumping overboard, crossing borders in a swarm. They'll never be reformed. It's a Trojan horse attack, and they've got to send them back. There may be Nazis in the hall, answering Hitler's call. These Jews are Germans after all. It's 1939 and the boats are coming. That's what they were saying back then about all the refugees, which is pretty much the same thing they're saying now. So I've never seen so much vitriol on Facebook in the entire existence of Facebook until the past couple weeks. I guess, it's not surprising. But this is a song for all the people who have called me all kinds of names in the past week. This is for all of them. I don't drive a car because they run on gas, but if I did, it'd run on biomass. I ride a bike, or sometimes a skateboard. So fuck off all you drivers and your yuppie hordes, sitting all day in the traffic queues. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't eat meat, I just live on moldy chives or the donuts that I found in last week's dumpster dives. Look at you people in that restaurant, I think you are so sad when you could have been eating bagels like the ones that I just had. I think it is a shame all the bourgeois things you do. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't wear leather and I like my clothes in black, and I made a really cool hammock from a moldy coffee sack. I like to hop on freight trains, I think that is so cool. It's so much funner doing this than being stuck in school. I can't believe you're wearing those brand new shiny shoes. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't have sex, and there will be no sequel because heterosexual relationships are inherently unequal. I'll just keep on moshing to anti-flag and crass until there are no differences in gender, race, or class. All you brainwashed breeders, you just haven't got a clue. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't believe in leaders, I think consensus is the key. I don't believe in stupid notions like representative democracy. Whether or not it works, I know it is the case that only direct action can save the human race. So when I see you in your voting booth, then I know it's true. I'm a better anarchist than you. I am not a pacifist, I like throwing bricks, and when the cops have caught me and I've taken a few licks, I always feel lucky if I get a bloody nose, because I feel so militant and everybody knows. By the time the riot is all through, I'm a better anarchist than you. I'm a better anarchist than you. Oh, okay. This is a song about something that happened last summer in Dallas, Texas. I guess there's so many massacres in the United States that people in Europe weren't sure which massacre I was talking about. You know which massacre I'm talking about, right? Dallas, Texas, last summer. Okay? Let's do it, yeah. Hopefully. If you don't, then you'll find out. If this were a war, if he were a soldier, he would find a defensible position. He'd put on body armor. If he were a sniper, set his sights with terrible precision. If this were a war, he was somewhere overseas. He'd be watching out for the other side, watching for the Taliban or whichever enemies kept on trying to blow him open wide. If this were a war, he'd be dodging shells aimed at him for being on the street. He'd be on alert for any sign that tells that the soldier might be drawing heat. If this were a war and he were being shot, he'd be under orders to shoot back. signs of it everywhere. If he was in good form and his aim was true, he would pick off and center his crosshairs. If this were a war, not a Dallas parking lot, he'd be getting medals for this firefight. If he were a soldier, he'd be praised for every shot he fired from above that deadly night. If this were a war, 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 if this were a war. Been getting into writing songs about if-then statements. It's part of my returning to my childhood, like playing cello and I was into computer programming a little as a kid. If I stopped, unfortunately, otherwise I could have a lucrative income, perhaps. But instead, I got into following my parents' footsteps and playing music, and which is not generally very lucrative income, but it's more fun than programming, I think. Anyway, I like it. But
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
at least you get to look out the window more. You know, instead of at the screen. It's mostly driving, by the way. The job is mostly driving. What's it like to be a touring songwriter? Well, you drive a lot. That's the basic thing. And then you stop driving, and then you look at audiences, and if they're there, hopefully, that's the nice thing when they're there. And instead of looking at the empty room, which is always the depressing part, you know. After a long day of driving, you either are looking at an audience or looking at an empty room, but the long day of driving is the predictable part, you know. Anyway, this is a song for the next attack, which is coming. Started cleaning up the mess. How many souls departed is anybody's guess. They're already proposing to turn it up a notch. Time they were imposing a never tighter watch. Terrorists everywhere, by which they do not mean Norwegians with blonde hair, American Marines, fighter planes. All of those who died when the bombs rained down from way up in the sky. We would bomb somebody. They might just bomb you back. Most of them agree there's too much immigration. They'll talk of social policies, things they should have done before. Whatever you say, don't mention the war if you bomb somebody. They might just bomb you back. They'll cry for more cops and laws against encryption. Time to pull out all the stops of every description. Time to torture suspects, send them back from where they came. And life goes as you'd expect in this imperial game. They'll say that now we must strengthen our will. We mustn't bow down to those we kill, to those we maim, to the countries lost. Don't mention their names or the cost. If you bomb somebody, they might just bomb you back. If you bomb somebody, they might just bomb you back. A couple more for you. This is the 100. It is one day. We are 1 day shy of the 101st anniversary of the execution by firing squad of Joel Emanuel Hägglund, better known as Joe Hill, who was executed by firing squad in Salt Lake City, Utah, on November 19th, 1915. And Joe Hill came to the United States at a time which was consistent with most of our history as a country, which is when we had a whites-only immigration policy. And we ended up with other people because of
various circumstances, such as them being here first, or them being dragged in chains and things like that, or the porous border to the south and annexing a country that already had people in it. And all that, so there's a lot of reasons why we eventually ended up to be a so-called diverse, so-called multicultural country. But we are a country that is founded on racism, slavery, and genocide, and this is a country that had a whites-only immigration policy for most of its existence, and it's only very recently that that's changed. And so who were those white people who came here? Well, they were mostly refugees. They were mostly refugees, and there would have been refugees, of course, from other countries coming, except that they weren't allowed in. But the Europeans came here as refugees because they were welcome to be here, to come here, because the more you had, the lower you could pay them. And so Joe Hill came here, and like so many other refugees from Sweden, and just to put it in some kind of a sort of a numerical context, Sweden, today one of the world's most prosperous countries, people know about that. People tend to know that Sweden's a prosperous country and so-called neutral country. That part is total bullshit, but they're prosperous anyway, for sure. Neutral is what you'd call a country when they sell to both sides in the war, which is Sweden's history. But Sweden provided most of the coal for Nazi Germany, most of the iron ore. In the 19th century, 50% of the world's iron ore came from Sweden. Also, 1/3 of Sweden's population emigrated to North America as refugees. 1/2 of Norway emigrated during the 19th century as refugees. 1/2 of Ireland.
Joel Hegman came from Sweden, which was very far from Eden. By the time he left, most of his family died. His sisters and his mother, his father and his brothers, so with one remaining sibling at his side. He got a notion to sail across the ocean, where he heard the streets were paved with gold. Not long after his arrival, as he toiled for survival, he realized the bill of goods that he'd been sold. He got a whole lot wiser, became an organizer, and he organized with artistry and skill. He spoke up, raised his fist, got right on the blacklist, and that's why he changed his name to Joe Hill. He heard that it was best if he headed to the west, where the industrial workers of the world were finding the solution for making revolution with red songbook and red flag unfurled. 100 years ago, the bard with the Union card proved his music was too powerful, too strong. They couldn't stand the sound, they had to take him down, lest he organize the working class in song. Soon as he paid his dues, he tried hard to light the fuse, speaking, singing, writing lyrics and cartoons. He sent off the whole mess to the wobbly press, and they sang his songs as they fought the dues. He joined a singing movement that fought for improvement by abolishing wage slavery worldwide. He sang the wobbly line, beseeching workers to combine, learn from Mr. Block, the boss's lie. 100 years ago, the bard with the Union card proved his music was too powerful, too strong. They couldn't stand the sound, they had to take him down, lest he organized the working class in song. Life would be cut short by a kangaroo court, eager to determine one man's fate. Evidence was circumstantial, but that's inconsequential. He'd become an enemy of the state. They put him up against the wall, that was all. They gunned him down in 1915. He took all the bullets he could take there by the Salt Lake for being the best bard they'd ever seen. 100 years ago, the bard with the Union card proved his music was too powerful, too strong. They couldn't stand the sound, they had to take him down, lest he organize the working class in song. 100 years ago, the bard with the Union card proved his music was too powerful, too strong. They couldn't stand the sound, they had to take him down, lest he organize the working class in song.
I'll do one more. And thanks so much for coming, and thanks so much to Carl and everybody else at the Living Wage Campaign who organized this show. And thanks so much to the Redstone Building for somehow still being here. What an amazing place. If you haven't walked around this place, it's just incredible. All the cool kids have offices in this building. I'm doing a house concert in Berkeley tomorrow evening, if anybody is on the East Bay or knows somebody who is. And of course, if you were there, you probably wouldn't be here. But anyway, I know how it is, San Francisco, that you don't leave. But it's a nice place. I used to live here. And let's see. Oh yeah, and I'll be on Sunday morning at 11 on KPFA on Across the Great Divide. Wonderful show. And in addition to the CDs and thumb drives and stickers that I've got out there, there's also my main method for surviving these days is my community-supported art program, CSA. It's a CSA, except it's art instead of agriculture. And if you go to davidrovics.com, you'll see the button for CSA, and it basically involves signing up to send me money every year and getting all sorts of things in return, physical and digital goodies.
It's worth it.
If somebody says it's worth it, so it must be true. And it can even involve annual house concerts. It can involve writing songs on a subject of your choice. You can sign up as a group and commission songs and all sorts of things like that. So you can read about it. And I also wrote a book which comes with that, or you can get it on my website if you click on where it says book. It's a novel about a busker who is not me, but he is traveling in familiar circumstances, circles, and yeah. And if you get on my email list, you'll get songs in your inbox now and then about current events and stuff. And also, I have on Facebook, I run a thing called Song News Network, which is a basically daily feed of songs related to history. A lot of them I wrote, but most of them I did not write. Most of them are by other people. So when people ask the question, who else does this kind of thing? Well, I'll show you if you go there. And just a year ago and one night ago, not quite on the anniversary of Joe Hill's execution, I had a wonderful gig in Los Angeles, and this is the song that Joan Baez did at the end of it to close the night. And a song written in 1923 by a guy named Earl Robinson, whose name gets confused with Paul Robeson, who's the singer who's most famous for having sung the song. I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.
I did not dream I saw Joe Hill last night. I simply saw Joe Hill last night. Alive in you and alive in me. The work of Cesar Chavez and the work of Eugene Debs did not die 25 or 75 years ago. It will never die, says I, for it will never die in me.
Copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe. I didn't die, says Joe. I didn't die.
The billy clubs of Ferguson and the tear gas on the streets of Oakland, the election of Donald Trump killed you, Joe. It takes more than that to shut us down, which is why we'll stay right here, which is why we will not die.
life and smiling with his eyes. Says Joe one day, forgot to kill, went on to organize. Went on to organize.
And organize he did. And standing there as big as life is the work of the United Students Against Sweatshops, the defense against the Dakota Pipeline, the Student Environmental Action, the San Francisco Living Wage Coalition, Black Lives Matter, Occupy, who struggle to organize a world in which all people live in freedom from oppression, valued as whole human beings rather than exploited in the pursuit of the wrong kinds of profits. They went on to organize, organizing as they fight police brutality, organizing as they fight the prison industrial complex, organizing as they fight for $15 in a union on both sides of the border, organizing as they fight to stop a wall on our border. Joe Hill is alive, and all those who went on to organize the unorganized.
From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill.
And from Johannesburg to Immokalee, from Zuccotti Park to Ferguson, from Oakland to Baltimore, from Prague to Sidi Boise, that is where you will find Joe Hill, because that is where you will find you and me.
And I saw Joe Hill last night.
I did not dream I saw Joe Hill last night. I simply saw Joe
You're
Hill
10
last
years
night.
dead, I never died, says he.
For I am Joe Hill today.
Died, says he.
I am Joe Hill tomorrow.
Died.
I am Michael Brown. I am Victor Hara. I am Rachel Corey. I am Joe Hill. And I will never die, says I. For I will never die in me.
Hopefully he's not going to play the cello again.
1492.
Clouds gather in your forests, drift to my desert town. I think of far-off places as the rain is coming down. You're bent down in the fields, picking fruit there from the vine, and it ends up on my table as it moves on down the line. The moon shines brightly in the night sky. The river flows from south to north. With the changing of the seasons, the birds migrate back and forth. But they say that you can't come here, not in the light of day. Somebody has got plans for you. Start an or hide away. Will we open up the borders? Tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls. So much travels across these borders. So much is bought and sold. One way goes the gunships. The other there comes the gold. Free trade is like a needle, drawing blood straight from your heart. The border's like a prison, keeping friends apart. Will we open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal, watch the giant as it falls? Hear the stockholders cheering. The world's getting smaller. Hear the drowning child crying. Why are the fences growing taller? Some whisper in the shadow,